It was a quiet morning in the little town of Maple Creek, where most days began with the sound of birds, the smell of bread from the corner bakery, and children walking to school along the narrow road lined with maple trees. 8-year-old Lily was one of those children, bright, cheerful, and always curious about everything around her. She carried her small blue backpack, humming softly as she kicked small pebbles along the path that led toward her house. That morning, however, something felt different. The sky was cloudy, and a light breeze moved through the trees, making them whisper. Lily didn't notice the shadow moving behind her until she heard the faint sound of footsteps, soft but steady. She looked back and saw a large German shepherd standing at a distance. Its fur was rough and dirty, its ribs slightly showing, and its dark eyes watched her closely. At first, Lily thought the dog belonged to someone nearby. Many families in Maple Creek had pets, and friendly dogs often followed the children for a while before turning back. But this one didn't stop. It took a few slow steps toward her, tail low but not wagging. Lily felt a sudden shiver of fear. She clutched her backpack tightly and started walking faster. The dog kept coming. Each time she turned around, it was a little closer. Panic began to build in her small chest. "Go away!" she shouted in a trembling voice. But the dog didn't stop. Instead, it barked loud and sharp. Lily gasped and broke into a run. Her shoes slapped against the pavement, and her backpack bounced wildly behind her. Across the street, an old man named Mr. Harris was sweeping his porch. When he saw Lily running with the big dog chasing her, he dropped his broom and yelled, "Hey! Get away from her!" He waved his hands, trying to scare the animal off. A few other neighbors came out, alarmed by the noise. Someone called animal control, while another picked up a stick to protect the girl. Lily ran all the way to her front yard, tears rolling down her face. Her mother rushed outside, wrapping her arms around her. The German shepherd stopped at the edge of the yard, barking again, not at Lily this time, but toward the woods behind the house. The sound echoed strangely, like he was trying to call attention to something beyond the trees. Everyone thought the dog was dangerous. He looked wild, his fur tangled with mud and burrs, and there was a small cut on his leg. The animal control truck arrived soon after. The officer stepped out with a long pole and a soft noose at the end. "It's okay, sweetheart," he said to Lily. "We'll take care of it." But the dog didn't growl or lunge. Instead, he stood there whining, his eyes moving between Lily and the woods. He seemed desperate for someone to understand him. The officer slowly approached, but before he could loop the rope, the dog stepped back, barked one last time, and ran off into the trees. The officer shook his head. "That one's been around for a while," he said. "Stray. Nobody knows where he came from. Probably starving." He promised to keep an eye out for the animal, but most people in town were just relieved he was gone. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the dog's sad, tired face. She remembered the way it barked, not angry, not threatening, but almost like it was trying to say something. Her father noticed she was quiet at dinner. "You're thinking about that dog, aren't you?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "He didn't look bad, Daddy. Maybe he was scared." Her mother gave a small smile. "Sometimes even animals act strange when they're hungry, sweetheart. It's best to stay safe." But Lily wasn't convinced. Something deep inside her said the dog wasn't trying to hurt her. Late that night, while the moonlight touched the windows, Lily tiptoed to the kitchen. She took a small bowl, filled it with leftover chicken, and carried it outside. The night air was cold and the forest loomed dark and silent. She set the bowl near the porch and whispered softly, "If you're hungry, you can come." The next morning, the bowl was empty. A few paw prints were left in the dirt. Lily smiled quietly. She knew it was him. When she walked to school that day, she looked around carefully, hoping to see the dog again. And there he was, across the street, half hidden behind a fence. He didn't come close this time. He just watched her, his eyes calm but still full of something unspoken. When Lily came home that afternoon, the same dog was sitting near her gate, tail gently tapping the ground. He stood up when he saw her, then dropped something near the path and backed away. Curious, Lily approached and found a torn piece of cloth. It looked like part of a child's shirt. It was dirty and had dried mud on it. She frowned and called her father. Her father took the piece and examined it. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "The dog brought it," Lily said softly. Her father looked toward the trees. The dog was still there, watching quietly. He didn't seem dangerous, just worried. That's strange, her father murmured. The next few days, the German shepherd kept returning. He never barked at Lily again. Instead, he stayed near the forest's edge, pacing nervously. Every evening, he would appear, look toward the house, and then bark softly in the same direction, toward the woods. It was as if he wanted someone to follow. Most of the townspeople still thought the dog was just acting wild. Some warned Lily's family to be careful, but Lily couldn't ignore the feeling that the dog was trying to tell them something. She started calling him Buddy, even though he never came close enough to touch. She would leave food near the porch, and by morning it was always gone. One afternoon, as the sun began to set behind the hills, Buddy appeared again, more restless than ever. He barked and ran a few steps toward the trees, then looked back, waiting. He repeated this several times. Lily's father watched through the window and said, "He's trying to lead us somewhere." Lily's mother frowned. "Or he's leading us into trouble." But her father shook his head. "Maybe not. There's something different about this one." Lily pressed her face against the glass, whispering, "He's not bad, Mama, he's just scared." The dog barked again, louder this time, and then vanished into the woods. That night, Lily couldn't stop thinking about him. The image of those sad, knowing eyes wouldn't leave her mind. She didn't understand it then, but that strange chase, the one that frightened her so much, wasn't a warning of danger. It was a cry for help, a message she didn't yet understand. And by the time the truth finally came out, the entire town would be left in tears. The next morning, Lily woke up early. The sun had just started rising over the hills, painting the sky in soft orange light. She went straight to the window, hoping to see the German shepherd again. Sure enough, there he was, sitting quietly at the edge of the yard, watching the house like a guardian. His fur looked even dirtier than before, and he seemed tired, but his eyes were full of something deep, worry, maybe even sadness. Lily rushed outside, holding a slice of bread in her hand. The cold grass brushed against her feet as she stepped toward him. "Hey, buddy," she whispered softly. The dog didn't run away, but he didn't come closer either. He just sat there, tail moving slowly, ears pointed up. When Lily placed the bread on the ground and stepped back, Buddy stood, sniffed it, and ate carefully. He didn't act wild or angry. He acted gentle, like a dog who once belonged to someone but had lost his way. Her father came out and watched from the porch. "He's been around since last week," he said. "A few people saw him near the river, too." Lily turned to him. "Daddy, I think he's trying to tell us something." Her father smiled, amused. "Maybe he's just thanking you for the food." But Lily shook her head. "No, he wants us to follow him." That afternoon, Buddy appeared again. This time he had something in his mouth, a small shoe. It looked muddy, like it had been buried or soaked in water. He dropped it near the gate and barked. Lily ran to get her father. When he saw the shoe, his face changed. "This looks like it belongs to a child," he said quietly. He called the local police to ask if any children were missing, but they told him no new cases had been reported. Still, something about the dog's behavior didn't sit right with him. Buddy barked again, running a few steps toward the forest, then stopping and looking back as if to say, "Come with me." Lily's father grabbed his flashlight and jacket. "I'll just take a quick look," he told his wife. "Maybe he's found something." Lily begged to go along, but her mother held her back.
"It's getting dark," she said.
"Stay here." Her father followed the dog into the woods, leaves crunching under his boots. The forest was quiet except for Buddy's occasional bark. The dog led him down a narrow trail, over fallen branches and through thick bushes. After a few minutes, the smell of damp earth filled the air. The man's heart pounded. He didn't know what to expect. Finally, Buddy stopped near a group of trees and started digging frantically at the ground. The man knelt down beside him, shining his flashlight. There, half covered in leaves, was a small blue backpack. He brushed away the dirt and saw it was a child's school bag. His hands trembled as he unzipped it. Inside were a few broken pencils, a notebook, and a photo of a smiling little boy. He carried the backpack back home, feeling a cold shiver run through him. When he showed it to his wife, she covered her mouth in shock. "Oh my goodness," she whispered. They turned on the news to check again, and that's when a report flashed across the screen. A boy from a nearby town had been missing for 2 days. His name was Tommy, and he was only 6 years old. The picture on the TV matched the photo in the backpack. Lily gasped. "That's him. The boy in the bag!" Her father nodded slowly. That dog knows where he is. The next morning, they called the local police again and explained everything. At first, the officer sounded doubtful. You're saying a stray dog found something? But when they mentioned the missing child, the officer agreed to come. Buddy was already waiting outside when the patrol car arrived, pacing restlessly like he knew this was important. When the officer stepped out, Buddy barked once and ran toward the woods. Well, the officer said, I guess that's our guide. They followed the dog through the same trail Lily's father had taken, only this time, Buddy went farther. He crossed a small stream and climbed up a hill covered in tall grass. Then he stopped and barked again, digging at the base of a fallen tree. The officer moved closer and froze. Underneath the tree's roots, they saw a small hand. It was the missing boy. He was weak, dirty, and barely awake, but he was alive. The officer quickly called for medical help while Lily's father lifted the boy gently. Buddy stayed close, whining softly and licking the boy's face as if to comfort him. When the paramedics arrived, they wrapped the child in a blanket and carried him to the ambulance. Everyone stood quietly, hearts pounding with relief. The officer looked at Buddy and said, You saved this boy's life. The German shepherd wagged his tail slowly and sat beside the ambulance until it drove away. Back in town, word spread like wildfire. The people who once feared the stray were now praising him. That dog's a hero, said Mr. Harris, the old man who had tried to chase him away. Children hung posters around the park that read, Thank you, Guardian. Lily smiled when she saw Buddy lying in her yard that evening. He looked tired but peaceful. She brought him water and sat beside him. You were never chasing me to hurt me, she whispered. You were asking for help. Buddy rested his head on her lap and closed his eyes. That night, Lily's father returned from the hospital. The boy's going to be okay, he said. Doctors said if the dog hadn't stayed with him and kept him warm, he wouldn't have made it. Lily's eyes filled with tears. Buddy saved him, her father nodded. Yes, he did. Over the next few days, the town gathered donations for Buddy. They brought food, toys, and a new collar with his name on it. The local news even came to interview Lily's family. When the reporter asked how they discovered the truth, Lily simply said, He told us in his own way. The police confirmed later that the boy had wandered off into the woods during a family picnic and had gotten trapped when the tree fell after a storm. Buddy had found him and stayed there for 2 nights, barking for help whenever he heard distant voices. He must have chased Lily that first day because she was the first person he saw near the forest. He was desperate for someone to follow him. The whole town was touched. People who had once avoided the stray now brought their children to meet him. They called him the town's guardian angel. Lily often sat with him by the porch, brushing his fur and talking to him softly. Though Buddy never spoke, his gentle eyes said everything: gratitude, love, and peace. And from that day on, no one in Maple Creek saw him as a stray anymore. He had a name, a home, and a family that would never forget what he had done. The story of Buddy, the brave German shepherd, spread through Maple Creek faster than anyone expected. For days, people couldn't stop talking about the dog who had saved a lost child. Children drew pictures of him in school, and adults spoke of him with awe and tenderness. Some even brought flowers and treats to Lily's yard, where Buddy now liked to rest under the shade of the big oak tree. Lily's family had officially adopted him. Her father built a small wooden house beside the porch, complete with a blanket and a bowl that read Buddy in blue paint. But Buddy rarely stayed inside. Every evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, he would walk to the edge of the yard and stare into the forest, ears perked up, as if he was still listening for something. Lily often joined him, sitting quietly by his side. She would talk to him in her soft little voice, telling him about her day at school, her friends, and her drawings. Buddy would rest his head on her lap and close his eyes. He seemed at peace, but there was still something in his heart, a weight that hadn't lifted yet. A few days after the rescue, the little boy named Tommy finally woke up in the hospital. His parents told reporters that their son wouldn't stop talking about the big dog who kept him warm. He said Buddy had shared his food, barked every time he heard a sound, and stayed close all night. When the boy's story appeared on the evening news, everyone in town gathered to watch. Lily's family smiled proudly as Buddy's photo filled the screen. That's our boy, Lily whispered, hugging him tightly. Buddy wagged his tail, but his eyes still turned toward the dark forest beyond the window. One morning, a woman named Mrs. Clark came to visit. She was an older lady with gentle eyes and a small silver locket around her neck. She said she used to live near the old river road and had recognized Buddy from the news. "That dog used to belong to my neighbor," she said softly. "His name was Rex. He disappeared months ago after his owner's accident. We thought he was gone for good." Lily's mother invited her inside. "You mean, he had a family?" Mrs. Clark nodded sadly. "Yes, his owner was a kind young man named Daniel. He loved that dog more than anything. One rainy night, there was an accident on the river bridge. The truck slipped into the water. They found Daniel's body the next morning, but the dog was nowhere to be seen. People said he must have run away in shock." Lily's heart sank. She looked at Buddy, who was lying near the door, his ears twitching as if he understood every word. Mrs. Clark smiled softly and knelt down. "Hello, Rex," she whispered. "You were always such a good boy." Buddy lifted his head and slowly walked over to her, tail wagging gently. It was as if he remembered her voice. Mrs. Clark stroked his head and sighed. "I think he's finally found a family again." After she left, Lily's father sat quietly on the porch. "So his real name was Rex," he said. Lily shook her head. "He's Buddy now," she said firmly. "That's who he is to us." Her father smiled and didn't argue. Days passed peacefully, but Buddy's behavior started to change. Every evening he would wander toward the forest and disappear for a few hours. Lily worried at first, but he always came back before bedtime. One evening she decided to follow him. She stayed a few steps behind, careful not to make a sound. The forest was quiet except for the rustling of leaves and the soft chirping of crickets. After a few minutes, Buddy stopped at the same spot where they had found Tommy, the fallen tree near the stream. He sniffed around, then sat down, staring at the ground. Lily hid behind a bush, watching. She realized he came here to check on the place, like he couldn't forget what had happened. Maybe he felt responsible. Maybe he just wanted to make sure no one else was lost. Lily stepped out slowly. "Buddy," she whispered. He turned, tail wagging lightly. "It's okay," she said. "You did your job. You saved him." The dog walked toward her and gently pressed his head against her hand. In that moment, Lily understood something that words couldn't explain. Buddy wasn't just a stray or even just a hero. He was a soul looking for peace, still carrying the memories of the person he had lost and the boy he had saved. When they returned home, her parents were waiting. "You shouldn't have gone alone," her mother said, hugging her tight. But her father only smiled at Buddy. "He was making sure she got back safe," he said softly. The next morning, the mayor of Maple Creek came to their house. He had heard about Buddy's rescue and wanted to honor him. In a small ceremony at the town park, surrounded by children, police officers, and townspeople, Buddy was given a medal that read, "For bravery and loyalty." The crowd clapped as Lily held the ribbon around his neck. Buddy barked once, almost like a thank you. After that day, Buddy became the town's official mascot. He visited the school where the children loved to pet him. He even joined the police officers during community walks, proudly wearing a small vest that said "Hero Dog." But despite all the attention, Buddy never acted proud or spoiled. He stayed the same, gentle, quiet, and loyal. Every time someone told the story of how he chased a little girl through the streets, Lily would smile and say, "He wasn't chasing me, he was chasing hope." Months passed and the seasons changed. The snow began to fall, covering the ground in white. Buddy loved the snow. He would run through it, leaving paw prints everywhere. Lily laughed as she threw snowballs at him, and he caught them in his mouth. Those were the happiest days the family had known in a long time. One cold evening, as the family sat by the fireplace, Lily leaned against Buddy, feeling his warm fur. "I love you," she whispered. He gave a soft bark, his tail thumping the floor. Her father smiled and said, "That dog didn't just save a boy. He changed this whole town." Indeed, he had. People in Maple Creek started taking better care of stray animals. They built shelters, donated food, and made sure no dog went hungry again. All because of one stray who had shown them what kindness really meant. Buddy would sometimes still sit at the edge of the woods at night, staring into the distance. Perhaps he was remembering his first owner, or keeping watch over the place where he had once found the lost boy. But now he wasn't alone. Lily always came and sat beside him. The wind would blow softly through the trees and the world would fall quiet, as if even nature itself was paying respect to the brave heart that had once chased a little girl, not out of anger or hunger, but out of love, courage, and hope. And though Buddy could not speak, his eyes said it all. He had finally found home. Winter stayed long in Maple Creek that year, and the snow made everything look like a dream. The trees stood silent under white blankets, and the rooftops sparkled like silver under the morning sun. Buddy loved the snow more than anyone. Every morning he ran out into the yard, leaving paw prints everywhere, chasing after the snowflakes that fell softly from the sky. Lily would laugh and run behind him, her red scarf flying in the cold wind. The town had grown to love Buddy deeply. Children would bring him treats after school, and adults would stop by just to pet him and say a few kind words. The police officers sometimes visited too, giving him a small badge-shaped tag that said Honorary K9. Everyone knew the story by heart now. The stray dog who had once chased a frightened girl but ended up saving a boy's life and changing an entire town's heart, Lily's father often said. Buddy didn't just rescue that child. He rescued us all. Life felt peaceful for a while. The family celebrated Christmas together, and Buddy had his own gift under the tree, a big red blanket and a new collar. That night, Lily wrapped her arms around his neck and whispered, "You're my best friend." Buddy closed his eyes and wagged his tail slowly, as if he understood every word. But one night, in the middle of winter, something unexpected happened. The wind was strong, howling through the town, and snow fell harder than ever. The streets were empty. Around midnight, Lily woke up to the sound of Buddy barking loudly outside. His bark was sharp and desperate. She jumped out of bed and looked out the window. Buddy was running back and forth near the gate, barking toward the forest again. Her father came rushing down the hall. "What's going on?" he said, pulling on his coat. When he stepped outside, Buddy ran to him, barked once, and sprinted toward the woods. "It's just like before," Lily said, worried. "He wants us to follow." Her father hesitated for a moment, then grabbed his flashlight. "Stay inside with your mother," he told Lily. But Buddy barked again, louder this time, and Lily's father knew something was wrong. He followed the dog through the snow-covered path, the beam of his flashlight flickering in the wind. The snow made it hard to see, but Buddy moved quickly, his dark fur standing out against the white. He stopped near the old bridge that crossed the frozen stream and barked again, pawing at the ground. When Lily's father reached him, he saw something shocking. A car had slid off the road and was stuck halfway down the slope. Its lights were barely visible under the falling snow. He ran closer and saw a man inside, shivering and trapped. "Hang on," he shouted. The man nodded weakly, too cold to speak. Buddy barked and ran in circles around the car, as if urging Lily's father to hurry. It took a while, but soon other neighbors came to help. They tied ropes, used shovels, and finally managed to pull the man out. The man was rushed to the hospital, safe but frozen. The rescue workers later said if Buddy hadn't barked and led them there, the man wouldn't have survived the night. When the story spread, the whole town couldn't believe it. Buddy had saved another life. The mayor called again, saying, "That dog should have a statue," and everyone agreed. Lily hugged Buddy tightly that morning. "You're more than a hero," she said. "You're an angel." Buddy didn't seem to care about the attention. After the rescue, he simply went back to lying on his favorite spot under the oak tree. But his eyes seemed softer now, calmer, like he finally felt proud of himself. Days passed and the snow slowly began to melt. Spring was on its way. Flowers started blooming again and birds returned to the trees. Buddy's fur looked shinier under the warm sun, and he loved to chase butterflies around the yard. He had become a true part of Lily's family. He slept inside the house at night, his head resting near Lily's bed, and followed her everywhere during the day. One sunny afternoon, the mayor invited Lily's family to the town square for a surprise. When they arrived, they saw something beautiful, a bronze statue of a German shepherd standing tall beside a small boy. The plaque read, "Buddy, the stray who became our guardian." Lily's eyes filled with tears. She turned to Buddy and said, "That's you." Buddy wagged his tail and barked once, almost like a laugh. The crowd clapped, children cheered, and for the first time in Maple Creek's history, a dog had his own statue in the center of town. That night, Lily sat on the porch beside Buddy, watching the stars. The moon was bright and the wind was soft. "You're special," she whispered. "You keep saving people. How do you always know?" Buddy didn't answer, of course. He just placed his paw gently on her lap, his eyes kind and calm. Maybe he didn't know why he acted. Maybe he just followed his heart. As the months went by, Buddy continued to live peacefully. He still checked the woods every few days like it was his duty to make sure everyone was safe. The townspeople called him the Watcher of Maple Creek. Even strangers who passed through the town knew about the story and would stop to see the famous dog. One summer evening, the little boy Buddy had saved, Tommy, came back with his parents to visit. When he saw Buddy again, he ran forward and hugged him tightly. "Hi, Buddy. Remember me?" he said happily. Buddy licked his face, tail wagging fast. The boy laughed. "He still remembers," Tommy's mother said with tears in her eyes. The two children, Tommy and Lily, played together all afternoon while Buddy watched them from the shade, his eyes gentle and full of peace. The families shared stories, laughter, and food, and everyone agreed that Maple Creek felt different since Buddy arrived. Safer, kinder, more connected. As the sun went down, Buddy lay quietly near the porch, the light turning his fur golden. Lily leaned beside him and said softly, "You've given so much. Buddy, you made us all better people." Her father added, "He showed us what loyalty really means." The stars came out one by one, twinkling above the quiet town. The wind carried the faint sound of laughter, children's voices, and the soft rustle of trees. And in the middle of it all sat Buddy, once a lonely stray, now a legend of kindness and courage. That night before going to bed, Lily looked out the window one more time. Buddy was lying under the oak tree, his eyes watching the stars. She smiled, feeling thankful. "Good night, Buddy," she whispered. "Sleep well, hero." The moonlight touched the yard softly, and Buddy's ears flicked as if he had heard her. The brave dog who once chased a little girl now guarded her every night. And though he could not speak, his heart said everything: love, protection, and peace. Spring turned to summer in Maple Creek, and the days grew longer and brighter. Flowers filled the fields with color, and the sound of children's laughter echoed through the small town once again. Life seemed peaceful and happy for everyone, especially for Lily and Buddy. Wherever Lily went, Buddy was always beside her, her loyal shadow, her guardian and her best friend. Every morning, they walked together to the bakery where the kind owner always kept a biscuit just for Buddy. Then they would visit the park, where Buddy would lie under the same tree while Lily played with her friends. He never barked or caused trouble. He simply watched, calm and gentle, like he was making sure everyone was safe. People in the town still talked about Buddy. His statue in the town square had become a meeting spot. Visitors would take pictures and children would touch the bronze figure for good luck. The story of the stray who had saved a boy and led a rescue during a snowstorm had reached far beyond Maple Creek. Letters even arrived from nearby towns, thanking the family for giving Buddy a home. But for Lily, he wasn't just a hero, he was family. She didn't care about medals or fame. What mattered to her was how Buddy wagged his tail every morning, how his eyes softened when she hugged him, and how safe she felt when he lay near her bed at night. One warm evening, Lily sat with Buddy on the porch steps, watching the fireflies glow in the garden. She leaned against him and whispered, "You know, Buddy, I think the whole town loves you, but you'll always be mine first." Buddy gave a small bark, his tail brushing against her leg, as if to say he agreed. As the months passed, Buddy began to slow down a little. He was still strong, but he no longer ran as far or as fast as before. Sometimes Lily noticed him staring off into the woods again, his eyes far away as if remembering another time, his old life before he met her. She would gently pat his head and say, "Don't worry, Buddy, you're home now." One afternoon, something unusual happened. A young man arrived in town looking for Lily's father. He introduced himself as Mark and said he was the younger brother of Buddy's first owner, Daniel. He had heard about the dog's bravery from a newspaper article. When he saw Buddy for the first time, his eyes filled with emotion. "I can't believe it," he said softly, kneeling beside him. "Rex, it's really you." Buddy looked at the man for a long moment, then sniffed his hand and wagged his tail slowly. It was as if he recognized the scent of someone he once knew. Mark smiled and stroked Buddy's fur. "He used to wait at our gate every day for Daniel to come home," he said. "When Daniel passed, Rex disappeared. I always hoped someone kind had found him." Lily's family invited Mark to stay for dinner. They shared stories about Buddy, how he had saved the boy in the forest and rescued a man during the snowstorm. Mark listened quietly, tears in his eyes. "Daniel would be proud," he said. "That dog was his whole world." That night, Lily looked at Buddy lying on his blanket and whispered, "You had two families who loved you, didn't you?" She hugged him gently. "But now you have everyone." Time went on and Buddy grew older. His fur turned grayer around the muzzle and his steps became slower, but his heart never changed. He still walked Lily to school, still watched over her from the porch, and still wagged his tail every time she came home. One summer evening, as the sun painted the sky in orange and gold, the town held a celebration at the park to honor Buddy once more. There were music, laughter, and children running everywhere. The mayor gave a short speech. "This dog taught us what kindness means," he said. "He showed us that bravery doesn't need words." Lily stood beside Buddy, her hand resting on his neck. The crowd clapped as the band played softly. Buddy barked once, looking proud and happy. For him, it wasn't about medals or cheers. It was about the people he loved standing beside him. Later that night, after the celebration, Lily and Buddy sat quietly near the statue in the square. The stars shimmered above them, and a gentle breeze moved through the trees. "You're tired, aren't you?" Lily said softly. Buddy looked at her, his eyes full of warmth. He pressed his head against her arm as if to say, "I'm okay." She stayed with him until the moon climbed high. When she finally went home, Buddy followed her slowly, his tail moving softly behind him. He lay on his blanket near her bed that night, his breathing calm and steady. The next morning, the sun rose bright and golden over Maple Creek. The birds sang outside, and Lily woke with a smile. But when she looked down at Buddy's blanket, he was lying perfectly still, his eyes closed peacefully as if he was dreaming. Lily's mother rushed in and held her close. Her father knelt beside Buddy and whispered, "Good boy. You can rest now." There were tears but also quiet smiles, because Buddy had lived a full life, one filled with love, kindness, and purpose. The news spread quickly through the town. People came to lay flowers by his statue. The mayor ordered a small sign to be added under it. "Forever in our hearts, Buddy, the guardian of Maple Creek." The entire town gathered for one last farewell. Children brought their drawings of Buddy and adults shared stories about how he had changed them. Some said they had adopted strays because of him. Others said they had learned to trust again because of his story. As the sun set that evening, Lily placed her hand on the statue's paw and whispered, "You'll always be with me, Buddy, I promise." She felt the soft wind brush her hair, and for a moment, she could almost hear a faint bark echoing through the trees. From that day on, Maple Creek carried Buddy's memory like a treasure. His story was told to every new child who moved into town. People said that sometimes, on quiet nights, you could still hear the sound of gentle paws walking down the street near the oak tree, as if Buddy was still keeping watch. Lily grew older, but she never forgot him. She often sat by the statue, smiling at the memory of the dog who had once chased her through the streets, not out of anger, but out of love that changed her life forever. And though years passed, Buddy's story lived on, a reminder that even a stray can become a hero, and that true kindness never fades. It stays in the hearts of those who believe in it, just like Buddy stayed in the heart of Maple Creek.